So, the funeral's done, the house is up for sale, and I'll be heading home soon. One thing I can say about my mom is that she never liked comics. But she helped keep this channel running just by hitting the play button for the YouTube credit. I love her because she never faked interest, but she was always rock solid on support. All right, my Omni Archivists, we've got a multi-front war breaking out in this collection, starting with Magneto's horrifying regime reaching a terrifying peak, forcing Beak to make a shocking stand against tyranny and new X-Men, and then Frank Castle sets the stage for a final showdown in Punisher, bringing a massive Emerald surprise to the docks. Meanwhile, Mystique's spy game turns into a chilling biological nightmare, and the Uncanny X-Men are trapped in Azazel's twisted dimension for a literal deadly family dinner. And that's right before Alpha Flight busts in. And as you can tell, we're finishing this month in pure chaos. This week we reach the final chapter of our massive 4-part saga. The comic world is ending January 2004 with the dial turned all the way up to 11. And don't forget to secure your subscription, swiftly share the spectacle, and set the signal so you never miss a single saga. Now, let's dive into those final brutal chapters. Mystique, Volume 1, Issue 8. So buckle up for a wild ride with Mystique because this mission's about to get seriously twisted in a politically charged atmosphere of post-apartheid Johannesburg. We're talking espionage, hate-filled rants, shape-shifting showdowns, and a biological nightmare on the loose. First up, at an unknown location, the Quiet Man has Shepard tracking Mystique's plane, wondering why she hasn't ditched the tracking necklace. Shepard insists she sees this as a potential ticket to freedom, giving her a 60% shot at success. The real question he muses is if she'll betray Xavier and swipe a sample for them. Cut to Johannesburg Airport, Mystique, disguised as a sharply dressed businesswoman, gets a cab driver who immediately goes on a vile racist rant about muties and Kaffirs taking over since apartheid ended. Disgusted, Mystique snaps into the form of a muscular black man and easily knocks the panicked driver out. She returns to her true form, cynically muttering, "Yeah, all humans are created equal. Equally worthless." Next, at the Gold Reef Hotel, Mystique arrives at Shortpack's room in a foul mood, calling Johannesburg depressing despite Shortpack's optimistic rants. She quickly gets down to business, reviewing their target, Dr. Harrison Taylor, creator of a mutant smallpox virus, possibly an evil penicillin? Shortpack warns that Taylor's home is a fortress, but their weak point is the live-in nurse. Mystique cuts him off, boasting that she's armed to the teeth with Forge's gizmos and promises to be back with the test tubes before breakfast. Hard-boiled through and through. She then infiltrates Dr. Taylor's heavily guarded mansion, swiftly taking out 2 guards with a kick and a laser hairpin. Gleefully, she telepathically tells Shortpack she's in, noting only 2 guards, unaware there's a third one nearby, covered in strange boils, and her telepathic contact soon breaks off. Mystique then finds Taylor's lover, quickly gets her voice print, knocks her out with ether, and takes her shape. Attired in some skimpy nurse outfit, she enters Taylor's study only to find him dead, covered in boils, with a strange hissing woman crouching over him. Feigning fear, Mystique learns the host just wanted to visit Taylor's beautiful new children. But he tried to stab her. The host attacks, spitting something that immediately weakens Mystique, calling her germs children. She gloats that Mystique should be grateful she didn't open the lockbox with the real virus in it, which would have liquefied her insides. "Who are you?" Mystique gasps, dropping to the ground. Taking the virus box, the host declares herself a freedom fighter of the oppressed. And as the host climbs out the window, Mystique, with her last ounce of strength, aims her tracking device lipstick at the host before passing out. Shortpack desperately tries to reach her telepathically, warning her about the infections from her missing biometric shield watch. No reply. This mission just went from espionage to terrifying biological nightmare, and our favorite shapeshifter is out cold, facing a threat unlike anything she's ever seen before. New X-Men, Volume 1, Issue 149. In Central Park, the scene is grim. A spiritless crowd of humans huddles, their hope and vitality completely extinguished. The city itself reflects their despair, capped off by smokestacks spewing black death. Magneto, overseeing this bleak vista with satisfaction, addresses his brotherhood, chillingly declaring that extermination is too good for humanity. He turns to Beak, ready to activate his crematoria, but Beak, horrified, challenges him, asking when they all became Nazis. Magneto, furious, dismisses the comparison, proclaiming himself a force of nature and his new world a paradise. When Beak and Angel protest, Magneto quickly silences dissent, even brutally crushing Basilisk's throat for a juvenile comment, all to enforce his iron rule. He orders Beak thrown in with the very humans that he despises, pushing his followers to choose absolute loyalty. Even Esme, once a close ally, finds herself discarded, dismissed as a mere means to an end by Magneto's growing madness. Dragged into the car with the other undesirables, Beak, despite being beaten and ridiculed, defiantly escapes by kicking open the door of the magically levitated vehicle. He makes a desperate, if ill-fated leap into the rainy night, believing he can fly. Reality asserts itself as he crashes down, only to be further brutalized by a group of youths who leave him for dead. Miraculously, he's found and rescued by the mysterious EVA and brought to the Stepford Cuckoos. They revealed Mr. Zorn tricked everyone and that Esme was manipulating them using Martha Johansson's superbrain. The truth is stark. Dr. McCoy and Miss Frost were blown up, and Logan and Jean were fired into the sun. There are no X-Men. But just when all seems lost, Cyclops and Phantom X appear with a ragtag group, including Dust and the remaining Cuckoos. Cyclops, with the grim determination, declares that this patched-together crew is the X-Men, ready for one hell of a test. The newly assembled X-Men learn the terrifying truth from Beak. Magneto isn't just powerful, he's 15 times stronger thanks to the drug called Kick. And his ultimate plan? To flip the Earth's magnetic poles tomorrow, wiping out all life. Despite Phantom X's cynical view that the final war between man and mutants has already begun, Cyclops refuses to give in, clinging to hope for Jean and the others. Meanwhile, Magneto's own inner consciousness, manifesting through the Zorn mask, confronts him about his escalating brutality. He then visits Professor X, still naked and paralyzed in a tank, mockingly contemplating setting him free after humanity's demise. But just as Magneto savors his triumph, Ernst appears with Martha Johansson's disembodied brain, delivering a chilling message. It's all coming to an end, and nothing can stop it. In his tank, Xavier is suddenly overwhelmed by a psychic vision of a burning, ruined Manhattan. Seeing Jean amidst the flames before returning to reality with a desperate telepathic question. Jean, is that you? Punisher, Volume 6, Issue 36. So, that knockdown drag-out fight between Frank and the Daredevil from last issue? Yeah, it's still going on. And guess what? Frank manages to get the upper hand, and Dee Dee is left there bruised and battered on the ground as Frank drops a classic Punisher warning, "Leave me alone." And then, poof, he vanishes into the night. Our blind hero, Daredevil, isn't done, though. He hightails it to where Spider-Man has been stuck, literally standing on a detonator for like a dozen bombs. But Dee Dee, ever the pragmatist, convinces Spidey that those bombs couldn't possibly be armed, reminding him that the Punisher, for all of his brutality, never takes out innocents. Cautiously, Spider-Man lifts his leg and boom! Dee Dee is right. No explosion. Just a whole lot of relief. The two decide right then and there to just erase the whole embarrassing encounter from the official hero history books. Page by page, our costume crusader's story unfolds. Frank, still in his darkroom, playing a sinister chef, spoon-feeding more mysterious stew to his captive. Meanwhile, Spider-Man is busy being a good pal, helping Daredevil pop his dislocated bones back into place. And Wolverine? He's chilling, or at least trying to, in a bathtub, healing up from that little bazooka incident. But the story of Soap, it's just getting bleaker and bleaker every panel. We find him in a grimy bar restroom, contemplating the unthinkable. And just when things are at their lowest, Kevin the bartender strolls in, just in the nick of time, and manages to talk Soap down from the ledge. But get this, Kevin, being the caring soul he is, just tells Soap to go home and do it so he doesn't have to clean up after his mess. And this just sends Soap into a rage. He whips out his gun, venting years of frustration at Kevin's jabs and insults. Kevin naturally pleads for his life. He cries, "Soap, but you're a cop." And in a moment of clarity, Soap responds, "Yes, so I am." And finally decides it's high time he started using his position as the head of the Punisher Task Force to bring Frank Castle to justice. Meanwhile, Frank's got his own plans brewing. He's on the horn calling up the law offices of Nelson and Murdoch, specifically looking for Matt Murdock. Frank wants to set up a meet and he insists that Wolverine and Spider-Man had better be there too. Our boy Frank is ready to put an end to all of this chaos once and for all, and with what he promises to be a final definitive battle. After making his demand, Frank heads back to the building where he's been holding his mysterious guest, who now seems to be suffering from a gnarly stomach ulcer. It's time you stopped whining and got on with doing what you do, you pathetic little maggot, Frank snarls, proceeding to beat the man within an inch of his life, showering him with insults and thrown punches. Finally, battered and trembling, the man warns Frank to run, and then his face starts to swell and turn a familiarly ominous shade of green. So there they stand, Daredevil, Spider-Man, and Wolverine, waiting on the docks. Frank shows up right on schedule, but he's not alone. He's brought an uninvited guest to the grand finale, a certain emerald giant known only as the Incredible Hulk. So get ready, because things about to get real. Silver Surfer, Volume 5, Issue 3. We kick things off with Denise stuck in a psychiatric ward, completely catatonic and refusing to speak a single word. Talk about a rough break. But Lieutenant Morn isn't giving up. He's still doing his best to reach her, trying to break through the wall of silence. Then a glimmer of hope. Denise catches a news announcement from a guy named Stuart Acheron, whose son is also missing. This is her chance. She manages to contact him, and for Stuart, this is the best lead he's had so far. He wastes no time getting her sprung from the ward and getting her put on a plane to meet him. When she finally tells Stuart her unbelievable story, he doesn't even bat an eye. Crazy as it sounds, he believes every word, mostly because they both bear the same unmistakable burn marks from their shared and harrowing encounter. Meanwhile, far, far away from all this earthly drama aboard the Great Ark, Amnel is giving Ellie some serious lessons. She's teaching Ellie how to harness and use her incredible special powers. Think of it as a super-powered crash course. And elsewhere on the Ark, Gabe is now doing some exploring of his own. He eventually hits a snag, though, a door that he can't open no matter how hard he tries. And it's at this pivotal moment that Silver Surfer makes an appearance. And get this, at Gabe's request, the Silver Surfer actually accelerates Gabe's evolution, essentially giving him a cosmic power-up specifically so he can access the mysterious room. Kind of like getting a cheat code for the next level. And what do you think's behind that door? And what's next for Gabe after this kind of transformation? The Spectacular Spider-Man, Volume 1, Issue 7. This issue kicks off at Peter Parker's apartment, where Mary Jane is playing doctor, trying to fix that dislocated shoulder Peter picked up during his last brawl with Doc Ock. After a quick pop back into place, MJ, feeling in love, playfully tackles Peter. Aw, young love. Although realistically, having been created in 1962, he should be slightly older than I am. Meanwhile, over in Queens, Dr. Octopus is having a moment. He barged into his very old apartment he grew up in when he was a kid, getting a heavy dose of nostalgia. And back on Peter's rooftop, things are chill. Peter, MJ, and a few friends are just enjoying the evening breeze. Mary Jane, always the curious one, asks Big John Anderson why he ditched New Zealand for New York. And his answer? He's hoping for a career as some superhero kid's sidekick. MJ finds this absolutely hilarious. And honestly, who wouldn't? The next morning, Spider-Man is out web-swinging, doing his heroic thing, but the piece is shattered when Dr. Octopus calls into a radio talk show. He calmly announces he's about to hit the Central Museum of Antiquities, and just to prove he's serious, he blows a hole in the side of the museum while Spidey's nearby. Our hero rushes in to investigate, but finds the police are pinned down by a barrage of gunfire coming from the wrecked building. Spidey's spider sense is a-tingling like crazy, letting him dodge the bullets as he leaps into the demolished side of the building. But, plot twist! The guns are just being fired by motion detectors. Confused, Spidey starts skulking along the ceiling, searching for Doc Ock's silhouette. He spots it against the window, so he uses his web line to swing down the other side and crashes through the window where Doc Ock is standing. But bam! It's just a dummy, made to look exactly like Doc Ock. Totally baffled, Spidey frees the hostages Octopus had taken, but it turns out that Ock didn't even steal anything from the museum. He just tied them up and vanished after a few minutes. The plot thickens like crazy when Spider-Man finds a mysterious hole in the museum floor. He drops into the sewer and webs his way a short distance and then finds another hole, this time in the sewer ceiling. Our wall crawler pops up only to find himself in the Palestinian embassy. It hits him then. Dr. Octopus didn't care about the museum's artifact. He kidnapped the visiting Palestinian foreign minister, who was part of the delegation Robbie Robertson mentioned last issue. And if things couldn't get worse, the police arrive seeing Spider-Man standing right there on the wrecked outer wall of the embassy. Oh boy. Spidey immediately realizes he's about to be blamed for the entire kidnapping. How's he going to web his way out of this one? Uncanny X-Men, Volume 1, Issue 434. On Earth, the dimensional hellscape of La Isla Desdemonas has the X-Men scattered while Professor X and Polaris watch the chaos through the stomach of a mutant? Who's named Abyss? Inside the demonic realm, the conflict begins immediately as Nightcrawler teleports in, snatching his half-brother Nils and retreating from the demonic father they share, Azazel. Mystique, who's also trapped in the castle, watches the reunion and dryly asks Azazel where Kurt got his ability to lie. A jab aimed right at the furious biblical mutant. Meanwhile, a chaotic brawl explodes in Vancouver as Alpha Flight clashes with Juggernaut, who destroys Guardian's armor and stops fighting only when challenged by Sasquatch. This dual front chaos sets the stage for a true power struggle, the love of a found family versus the legacy of a demonic bloodline. And now deep in Azazel's citadel, the X-Men fight back against the demonic siblings. In the castle pits, the blind psychic Janaea uses her unseen extended limbs to attack Husk, Havoc, and Jubilee while ruthlessly crushing Carter Gazikanian. The siege is broken when Iceman, whose shattered body was being held by Carter, reveals his master plan. He drains all of the moisture out of Janaea's body and instantly reforms himself, declaring that he'd put better use of that water anyway. Simultaneously, captured Archangel is freed by Kiwi Black, another of Azazel's sons, adding a powerful mutant to the rebellion. And back on Earth, Polaris decides a tactical nuclear option is best. She uses Abyss's power to violently pull Azazel's castle through his dimensional portal, causing the entire castle to violently collapse around the demons. In the midst of the destruction, Kurt teleports in for one final confrontation with Azazel, who attempts to sway his favored son to rule by his side. Kurt defiantly refuses, telling his father he's nothing more than a Lothario with regrets, and not the man who raised him. Swords clash and the fight is cut short when the collapsing bricks give way and the devil mutant is swept away by the dimensional currents, laughing maniacally as he's banished. The emotional climax is the eventual return to the Institute, where Nightcrawler tells Professor X that Azazel merely provided genetic material, but Charles has always been his true father, who provided him with support, family, and most importantly, love, understanding, and kindness. Aww. Venom, Volume 1, Issue 8. All right, Canon Keepers, we're going to call the symbiote Fred for the rest of this episode, as I think we've earned a break from saying the symbiote over and over. The suit and Fred are hovering over Logan's skeletal remains, with Fred snarling that he still wanted Wolverine as a host. The suit dismisses this, reminding Fred that he rendered Logan useless for a reason. Fred counters that he's going to simply wait for the regeneration, and the suit vows to destroy Fred long before that happens. But his focus is broken as Vic, an agent of the Ararat Corporation, blindsides him. Vic, having just ripped off her wig in fury, blasts the suit's phone weapon out of his hand. The suit quickly advises Fred that Vic is wearing a cybernetic collar, a control device designed to bond and master Fred against his will. And Vic just says, hey, I'm more than a willing host. A simple man named Uber from Yonder Diner just begs to be let go. The sudden and bizarre interruption gives Fred a chance to choose a new path, deciding Uper will serve, and Fred ditches the current host Nan and lunges for a bullet that Vic just fired at Uper, using it as a vector to reach Uper faster. The bullet impacts Uper, expelling itself, and the symbiote immediately bonds with the old man, taking full control. And as the new Uper bonded Fred bursts out of the diner, it quips that it's ready for its new trick. All it needs is a volunteer. Meanwhile, Vic contacts her cybernetic sister Frankie to initiate the tracking process on the new Fred. The suit, however, grabs Vic, preparing to electrocute her until Frankie blasts the suit with a particle beam from the approaching ship, dropping a ladder for her sister. A furious Vic is hauled aboard where Frankie points to a third figure, a chained, captured Patricia Robertson. Now aboard the ship, Frankie reports their failure to their boss, but assures Vic that they'll be spared for uncovering an information leak. With the confirmation from above to proceed with Plan B, Frankie pilots the vessel to 42,000 feet. And down below, Logan finishes his regeneration and gets up to attack the suit, but notices the cybernetic spiders rebuilding him. Recognizing the technology, Logan curses, realizing that Reed Richards is playing wizard behind the curtains on this one. And when he spots the Ararat ship rocketing skyward, he knows something bad is coming. Vic asks if Canada will object to Plan B, but Frankie states that their boss pulls all the strings. With authorization confirmed, they hit the red button, dropping a nuclear bomb on the quiet town of Voici. Wolverine can only curse his luck as the missile locks onto him and the massive explosion slams into him, detonating with the force of an atomic blast. The suit is the first of the two to recover and plants his phone weapon into the Wolverine's chest. Now, both the suit and the Wolverine survived a point-blank nuclear blast, and Wolverine's ready to confront the new mystery, but did the suit just turn Wolverine into a walking bomb? X-Statix, Volume 1, Issue 16. All right, my Omni Archivists, this issue opens with a full-on panic attack as three friends sprint from the park bowl to their station wagon. They don't make it. The key turns and the car instantly detonates in a blinding kaboom of fire and searing metal, confirming the random killers terrorizing America have completely changed their brutal tactics. Fast forward and Henrietta steps up as the new Secretary of Homeland Defense. The media is all over her, showing off the new Xstatix costumes, snapping pics for Time magazine. And meanwhile, a hospital-ridden Reggie in Europa sees the magazine, goes ballistic, and chucks it out the window. His dying wish, he tells his associate Dickie, is to grab the documents from his office that prove Spike Freeman sold chemicals to Saddam Hussein and then pass them on to Lacuna. So, Henrietta gets to work leading the X-Statix cross-country, desperately trying to pinpoint the random killers. When Miles shouts that they need a system, Henrietta resorts to throwing darts at a U.S. map, hoping for some cosmic guidance from the spirit world. Classic, right? But while Henrietta's trying to get spiritual help, Tyke secretly has Dead Girl mess with the spirits to stop them from helping. The media, totally baffled by the killer's motives, corners Henrietta for an interview demanding what she's going to do to protect folks. She gets pelted with trash. Tough crowd. Later, Guy shows up at the Lacuna show. Lacuna, ever the manipulator, tries to kiss him and make him forget about Venus and Eddie, but Guy pushes her away. Naturally, she screams assault. The plot thickens when Dickie slips Lacuna a folder on the street, claiming it's got dirt that'll ruin both Spike Freeman and the X-Statix. Simultaneously, a dude named Mr. Code pops up on a video declaring that these random killings are good and won't stop until he's changed America. When some guy named Joe tells Spike he couldn't get Reggie's documents, Spike just picks up the phone and calls Mr. Code. Later, Guy meets Lacuna by the ocean. She spills the beans that she has the documentation linking Spike to Saddam. But here's the kicker. If those documents go public, Eddie's reputation is toast too, as they made it look like she had agreed to help sell weapons to Hussein. And Guy immediately confronts Spike, who spins a tale about Eddie needing cash for an extravagant lifestyle and Zeitgeist footing the bill for their buildings and even dupes medical bills. Guy, fed up, tells Spike he's going to get the documents from Lacuna. That's when Spike drops his bombshell that he plans to make Lacuna the next victim of the random killings. Big mistake. Guy snaps, kicks Spike in the neck, killing him instantly. Guy immediately bolts for Lacuna's studio, but it's a race against time with the sniper already in position, aiming for Lacuna. Guy rushes towards her, but he's too late. The shot rings out. It's quite a wild ride for the X-Statix, huh, Comic Crusaders? What do you make of Spike Freeman's ultimate fate? Amazing Spider-Man, Volume 1, Issue 501. Aunt May is chilling on a park bench, spilling her guts about her nephew, Peter Parker. You can just hear the worry in her voice, talking about Peter, his main squeeze Mary Jane, and the whole he's Spider-Man thing. She's recapping her day, and Peter zipped off on the patrol earlier, and then she's walking down the street overhearing these little dudes playing Spider-Man and Doc Ock, and a stall vendor even chimes in telling his buddy about watching Spidey tango with some bug woman. As May turns the corner, boom! Rubble crashes down, a gift from Spidey's current brawl with the Shaker. And then we're right in the thick of it, watching Spider-Man going at it with the Shaker. Our webhead is seriously struggling, but then he flashes back, remembering reading about how his crazy mining suit the Shaker is rocking was stolen. Back to the present, Spidey is still getting clobbered by the dude. It turns out they've been at it for 2 hours already, ever since the Shaker pulled a bank job. And suddenly, the Shaker decides to bring the house down. Literally. Causing a cave in on the roof that they're both standing on, sending them both tumbling. May keeps on talking, letting us know just how much she stresses about Peter swinging into danger, but she also respects the heck out of what he does for the city. After a quick peek at May totally outstarting some annoying dude at the phone shop, making him stomp off on a huff, we're back to Spidey's fight. He finally manages to toss Shaker into a swimming pool, and because Shaker's suit is vibrating like crazy, it's causing mini tidal waves that just keep pummeling the guy until he finally gives up. Back on the park bench, May's brand new phone rings. It's Peter, and he's calling to invite her for dinner and a movie with him and MJ. Maze all smiles and accepts the invite, and then turns to whoever she's been talking to, saying that she's got to bounce, but she'll be back next Saturday. And that's when we figure it out. She's been talking to the gravestone of Richard, Mary, and Ben Parker. Now, really, was this beloved character moment worth the break from the main storyline? Xtreme X-Men, Volume 1, Issue 35. Things kick off as Robert DaCosta's extravagant gala goes sideways the moment Rogue confronts him, pinning him against the dolphin statue. She suspects him or his ex-corp of being tied to recent mutant attacks after trailing culprits back to his corporate garage. Roberto's security, Stringfellow, a mutant who can turn people into string, and Skits, who projects mind-bending delusions, quickly incapacitate Rogue and Sam Guthrie. Now, Roberto, despite his fancy party, uses his sunspot powers to blast them both into the atmosphere to prevent further damage. Meanwhile, a mysterious shadowy telepath is already making moves. She finds the unconscious Sam and Rogue, noting that Rogue's mind is fascinating. The telepath then recruits some delinquent mutants, Cutter Sullivan, Dervish, and Porus, offering them vials of Kick, a powerful boosting drug, to attack the fallen X-Men. Back at Rogue's house, Sage gets Evangeline Whedon to safety while Bishop takes off to rescue Rogue and Sam. Meanwhile, Storm and Gambit are in intense training with Colonel Vashin, who is pushing Storm to lead the newly formed Extreme Sanctions Executive, a global mutant law enforcement team. Vashin makes it clear that Storm needs to be both a diplomat and a fierce warrior. For their first assignment, he tasked them with infiltrating mutant fighting arenas run by their old slaver foe Tullamore Vogue, starting in Tokyo. Back on the sands of Via Soyada, the kick-fueled delinquents Cutter, Porus, and Dervish have already taken out Stringfellow and Skits and are closing in on the helpless Rogue and Sam. But then the cavalry arrives. Bishop blasts into the scene, followed by Cannonball, and they dive into the chaotic brawl. Despite the delinquents' kick-enhanced powers, Bishop expertly outmaneuvers them, eventually knocking out Cutter and Dervish. Rogue, finally recovering from Stringfellow's power, takes down Porus himself, demonstrating that, even depowered, she's not to be messed with. After the gala, Roberta and Amara of X-Corp investigate, discovering that Jared Malloy was involved in property dealings in Via Soyada. Empath, now controlled by the shadowy telepath, forces them into a passionate kiss and then erases their memory of it, leaving only the discovery of Malloy. The telepath reveals her long game. She set up Malloy as a scapegoat and is giving Empath Kick to prepare him to destroy the X-Men. She even hints at something special planned for Sage. Roberto later publicly apologizes for Malloy's actions, promoting Via Soyada as Charles Xavier's dream made real, a blueprint for mutant-human coexistence. Now, while the XSE team watches, Bishop remains skeptical, and Sage continues her hunt for Elias Bogan. And in a poignant moment, Anna and Marie visit the DeCanto gravesite where Marie emotionally embraces Rogue, seeking a second chance to honor her family's name. The story closes with a chilling glimpse of a young man listening to Roberto's hopeful words while cleaning a rifle in a room adorned with a purity poster and a stark fascist bust. His eyes set on a dark, determined future. Really? Purity and the Schutzstaffel? That's some scary, scary foreshadowing. And with that, my Omnians, we slammed the book shut on January of 2004. This video is the grand finale for our series, capping off a brutal month that delivered Omega-level threats, massive status quo changes, and an intense storyline that saw a hero battle a devastating eternal transformation at a crushing personal cost. The sheer volume and intensity of these issues perfectly captured the dark, chaotic spirit of the mid-2000s era. We're done with January, and that means we're charging straight into the thick of an even bigger February lineup. And speaking of massive My Saga Squad, for the next video, we're diving deep into the publishing trenches for a colossal issue-by-issue recap. You'll get the rundown on Captain America finding no justice, Hulk falling for a tragic trap, Spider-Man getting framed by Black Cat, and Thanos exposing Galactus' most desperate secret. You do not want to miss a second of that comprehensive breakdown. Don't forget to vanquish that like button, make sure you subscribe, and ring that bell to make sure you keep up with us. Here's the titles we'll be covering next episode. We'll be seeing you next episode, same ordered time, same ordered omnibus.